Hello, my name's Andy from the Diagnostic Workshop in Swindon. What I'd like to cover today is the story of a Vauxhalls Corsa on a 207 plate. This is not the actual vehicle, but it's a job that came my way just recently, and it was quite awkward. The fault codes that we retrieved was P0130, O2 sensor circuit voltage low, and to my understanding this is a common fault that is occurring on these vehicles. And also there was a P0135 O2 sensor circuit malfunction. The particular vehicle suffered poor running, high fuel consumption. It comes from another workshop. I don't think I've had the full story on it, but the owner basically said that he had a code which the O2 sensor was actually stuck in open loop, and that is the reason why he started replacing these sensors. Obviously, without checking out the facts. He replaced the front one, and that didn't cure the problem. So he then went on and replaced the rear one, and went no further forward. When I first looked at the vehicle, I did a basic check and looked at the coil packs, and I could see that the coil pack was new. Also examining the plugs, and they looked new. However, it looked as if it was running in a lean condition. They were white on the core and black on the outside, which I would like to see a tan colour would give us a little bit more information as to how the vehicle was actually running. Was it fueling correctly? So to first put a call after driving it, I put a fuel gauge on it, and the fuel spec was around 50 to 55 pounds, which was correct. So then we followed up with a serial diagnostic check, and things didn't look correct at all. One of the things that sort of caught my attention immediately was the fueling. The ECU was actually commanding minus 25% on the short term. We didn't get a reading on the long term because it simply wasn't functioning. So then we had to sort of proceed as to why it wasn't going into closed loop, even when the temperatures were driven upward bound. We only managed it when used an external fuel source, carb cleaner. Then we managed to get the O2 to switch, or begin to switch, when I started spraying fuel into the air intake here. It would consequently then switch. However, I wasn't getting the plus or minus 5 or 10% that I'd be looking for. It still seemed to stay at naught, which was, you know, not exactly what it should have been. So then I decided to do a circuit check, to do a check on the actual circuit. Is it functioning? Well, according to the serial tool, there was well, how can I put it? There's a reference voltage. There's a reference voltage where the circuit is going to stick at around 450 millivolts. Well, that was present. However, when checked, that's the only place where a stator will barely move beyond 500 millivolts upwards. And then, if the engine was allowed to cool over any period of time, if you left it for half an hour, you found yourself back to square one, literally. We're going nowhere, same fault. So, what I've done is rigged up some probes here onto the signal wire, and could I actually force this to go rich? Well, the answer to that was yes, we could. So I would like to demonstrate. Another method of checking an OT sensor for its supports. Is it actually working? Is it contaminated? Is it sending out false signals? Well, here's going to be one way of actually testing these circuits out. However, bearing in mind that the heater circuit has to function in order for the OT sensor to work correctly. And what I mean by that is there is a certain resistance of between 5 and 15 ohms on these circuits, depending on the actual circuit, not the circuit, on the actual sensor itself. That we then found out that there are 3 different types of sensors. It has to reach a temperature of around 600 degrees before these zirconium type sensors actually produce a signal. They come from heat. So what I think I'd like to do now is demonstrate just one of the methods of testing these circuits. Just a quick word here on the actual setup. What we've got here is the pico current clamp, and we're also connected to the signal circuit on the OT sensor. So we're going to give it a minute or so to let the sensor warm up, and then we're going to have a look at the results. Oh, it's actually up. We've got it up. Albeit that looks as if it's a little bit on the slow side, but nevertheless, what I'm going to do, first, we're going to make it go rich. So if you have a look on the screen, it has that. Right, here we are, we're back again. You've got the scale set up here. It looks from there that it's switching a little slow, but that's just the way we've got the scales set up. So basically, with the safety of the test lamp, I'm going to demonstrate how the system will just go rich. How we can drive the circuit if this OT sensor is working correctly. As you can see, it went full rich. She's switching now. Back to the normal setup here. Now I'm going to go to battery negative. We're going to watch how the sensor goes lean. Right, I know the signal is a little bit messy, but you can see clearly that it's running on the bottom. As soon as I release it, it goes full witch again. I look at the period of the time. That's almost what? 6 to 10 seconds. It goes back to norm. And it's going very, very lean again. What I'm going to do, I'm going to come back that second time and just basically just keep tapping it. For 1 volt, we're actually putting a little bit more in there. We could be putting as many as, I don't know, 12 volts. Factory voltage, but at the end of the day, this is about 100 milliamp test light. It's hardly going to do any damage there. You can hold the engine up at about 2000 RPM. What we're going to do is we're going to have a look at how this O2 sensor reacts. This is a ground side switch circuit. It's powered by a fuse and other circuits on it. And one is the off sign, the one on the bottom is the on sign, the other part is the off sign. So it's actually switching. What I might do here is actually capture you could grab it a little longer, we're trying to get the full screen here. Okay. As you can see, it went through the there. I'm going to try and get a full screen. All I'll do is I'll capture the circuit, capture the reading. This is what we've got. Basically, according to the heater circuit side of things, it looked as if the ECU was actually switching or trying to turn it on. In actual fact, that is what wasn't happening. When you look at the resistance of these circuits, they can range between 5 and 15 ohms. Well, there are three different O2 sensors that fit these engines, and apparently they are not interchangeable or compatible. There could be a difference in resistance in the actual O2 circuit itself, in the heater circuit, sorry. Turn them off. What I'm going to do here, basically, let's have a look. Let's have a look at the actual current. Looks like a maximum of 6.685 milliamps. that's what it actually needs to drive the circuit, to drive the heater circuit, is a minimum amount of current. I don't quite remember what it was drawing. What was it drawing? 0.6?
With the first O2 sensor, it was 0.8 amps. 0.8 amps. The second O2 sensor was the same as this, 0.6.
Right, so what we basically, it was an incompatible sensor for this particular circuit. And what we had to do was determine, or try and at least determine, is this the correct type for that particular vehicle? And the answer to that was it wasn't. When it was cross-referenced with the Bosch catalogue, it stated that this particular sensor is not compatible for this system. It was attempting to draw 850 milliamps. Unfortunately, I haven't got the vehicle with me. I had to hand the vehicle back. I haven't got the sensor either. But this is what happened. I actually removed the sensor from an identical vehicle, fitted it, and the situation improved. We then started having positive fuel trims. Is that correct? We started having positive fuel trims. They were switching 0 to 10 to 15%. So the actual engine computer was now beginning to add fuel. And of course, the running also improved with it. But saying all of that, there are still unanswered questions with this vehicle. I don't know what prompted the owner to actually start, what we got, the negative fuel trims. Well, I've mentioned that the actual computer was running a minus 25% in short-term fuel trims. However, obviously it was running lean in a negative form. So, as it stands, I still don't know what actually caused the original problem, what prompted the owner to replace these O2 sensors. The history I've got is rather vague. But the original fault was the engine was running in open loop. Engine management warning light happened to have been on. But having to go back and trying to figure what caused this P0130 to sort of flag. What was the original problem? Well, after a little bit of digging and looking through some forums, apparently on these Ecotech engines, this is an ongoing problem that appears that it's unsolved. No one so far has got any answers. Well, these vehicles are known to me. I know them quite well. And yes, I do know that they suffer with severe injector problems. I know I've replaced them on endotones. Yes, restricted injectors are going to give you a lean running condition, but what would you expect from engine management when it detects the lean conditions, i.e. through the O2 sensor? It expects to be adding fuel. in this particular case, we had a minus 25% a negative filtering condition. This is still a little bit mystifying, and of course we're going to have to do a little bit more digging, but when you've got restricted injectors, I'm forgetting to mention that when I looked at the oil, it was contaminated with fuel. All these motors now are running in a closed loop system basically. Any fumes are going to be sucked up and sort of burn and then, you know, out the exhaust. But should that cause a problem? Well, under certain conditions it will cause a problem. But the main concern with this P0130, yes, any one of those, an O2 sensor malfunction, yes, that could log it. Circuit voltage low, in other words, it's lower than what the ECU is looking for. Yes, P0135, O2 sensor heater circuit, malfunction. Yes, there's another possibility. If the O2 sensor isn't reaching the temperatures, it cannot produce an output, the correct output voltage. So, looking back, an O2 sensor was installed with the incorrect type, simply because it wasn't compatible to this very system. However, the original fault, that the vehicle running in open loop, I wouldn't go into closed loop, well, it could suggest that there was a fault with that sensor. But nevertheless, this had caused some dilemmas here. Lean conditions, P0130, that could be caused mainly by restricted injectors. Performance would be poor. That would be obvious to any driver that it bottomed out and it's not exactly performing as it should. Yes, there are issues with other things, like, for instance, an EGR valve. They do often malfunction. Another point to mention here is the variable inlet manifold. Due to the fuel we're running these vehicles on now, we get a lot of carbon now. It's getting thrown back into the inlet manifold. These flaps can be restricted. They can get restricted. I've even known for them to get stuck. Well, that would definitely cause running problems. Another factor, having a look at the throttle bodies, air leaks, for instance, is another obvious one. There's a giveaway there with the engine warm, and if it's idling a little bit too fast, around the 1000 RPM mark, and it's not exactly running smooth and guttering, that's a giveaway. Another way, you could use a scan tool there, run it on idle if you've got fuel trims that are running in the positive, running high at low RPM and idle, for instance. That's easily detected if you take the engine up to 2,000, 2,500, if the fuel trims return to normal levels. What I mean by that is switching from positive to negative. +5, -5, or up to a figure of 10%, positive or negative. But what I'm going to do is we're going to finish up here, and we're going to perform another setup, this time using serial data through a diagnostic tool, and hoping I could try and reproduce this -25% if we can. So we'll see you in the next video. Cheers.